Okay, Sanjana, over to you.
Sure. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's really great to see so many faces here, or not faces because I can't see your cameras, but many names. So basically the format will be is that we'll talk through the verses. So we'll pick someone to read through the verses, and we've chunked them so that the verses have been broken up into little sections. And at the end of each section, there will be a sort of summary just to make sure that everybody knows what was going on in the verses, because the verses do use quite like there's a lot of language there which you might not have come across before as young people. So we'll be learning lots of new words as well. So we'll just clarify what's going on, and then there will be a few lessons that you can use to take away from it, so that we're not only learning it in a theoretical sense, but we're learning it in a practical sense as well. Like, how can we use what Krishna is saying and apply it to our day-to-day life? So hopefully this course is going to be really good, really useful. And by the end of the 20 weeks, you might find that some of your habits have changed as well, and that you feel maybe more at peace, maybe happier, maybe have a better understanding of the world. So I'm really excited to be going on this journey with you all. So we'll start with the first set of verses. What I usually do is I allocate a slide to each person who's reading, although I don't know how many over 12s we have, so we might just dedicate it by section. But for the first section, let's see who we have.
There's quite a few. There's Arman, Akasha, Reha.
Yeah, we've got quite a few.
Yeah.
If we go to first, Arman, would you like to read the first few verses?
Oh, yes. So we have to unmute them. And Shruti and Chitra, I've also made you co-host. So if I don't get there quick enough, because I'm pretty slow, hopefully you can. So,
Oh, Prabhuji.
So where do we find Akasha? Oh, yes, they're there. So if we can unmute Arman, Akasha. Okay, can you unmute yourselves? Okay.
Yeah, I think they are unmuted now.
So please read.
I think on the screen only text one is appearing. So will it be?
Yeah, there's a picture after this, so I just wanted to show the picture after they've read the text.
Dhritarashtra said, "O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do?"
So this is the picture which designates that verse. Dhritarashtra is the blind king, as you recall from last time, and Sanjay is telling him exactly what's happening in the Kurukshetra, which is hundreds of miles from where they are. Please carry on.
Text 2. Sanjay said, "O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words." Text 3. "O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad." Text 4. "Array in this army are many heroic bowmen, equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjun, great fighters like Yudhan, Virat, and Drupad." Text 5. "There are also great, heroic, powerful fighters like
Ketu,
Ketu,
Chekitana, Kashiraj,
Purujit, Kunti Boja, and Saibya." Text 6. "There are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamaoja, the son of Subhadra and the son of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters.
Maybe Akasha can read this one.
Yeah.
I'm under 11. I'm under 12.
No, but
I'm-
we know you in terms of you're very competent.
Okay. Text 7. But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force. Text 8. There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwadama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta, called
Rishabh.
who are always victorious in battle. Text 9. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and all are experienced in military science. Text 10. Our strength is immeasurable, and we are perfectly protected by Grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Text 11. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you both so much for reading those wonderful verses, both really, really clear and nice and boldly said, so well done. So here we've got a little bit of an introduction to the battlefield. So we start with Dhritarashtra, who's the king, the blind king, as Nabi Das was saying, asking Sanjaya, who has he has this sort of special gift where he can see to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, even though they are in the palace. And Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya for help, and he knows that Sanjaya has the access through knowledge of his guru, with his guru. So even here we see, even from King Dhritarashtra, who makes quite a few mistakes, I think, in the Mahabharata, he also admits here that he must ask someone for help who has that greater guidance, who is best positioned to help him understand what's going on in the battlefield right now. So this is a really useful lesson, and it also shows us and guides us to what we'll be seeing in the Bhagavad Gita, a trend about asking for help and knowing when we need to get guidance. And one of those things is reading the Bhagavad Gita, looking to the Gita for guidance, because it has those aspects that can bring us to a platform, a spiritual platform, with its words. So the first lesson that we can take away from this is that the king was aware that this battle was taking place in a very, very holy place. The Kurukshetra is a holy battlefield. It's marked out as a holy battlefield. And at this point, Dhritarashtra is getting a little bit fearful because he, in his heart, knows that his son Duryodhana is in the wrong. And so he gets this fear in his heart because he sort of knows what might be about to happen. So he's got this double blindness going on. He's blind materially, he can't see. He's actually blind, he can't see anything in front of him, but also spiritually, because he didn't recognize, perhaps until very much far too late, that what direction this war was going to go in and what should have been given to the Pandavas. Nonetheless, because of this fear, he's now realized that he needs some help because he's blind in both of these aspects. So he sought the help. He's asking Sanjaya for help to inform him about the battle. In a similar sense, we might not think it because, you might say, well, I can see everything around in the world to me and I know what I have to do and I know all the different things that I'm supposed to do. And this is true in some sense, we're in the position where we might have access to certain scriptures or brought up in certain ways, we know about religion, but still in this material platform, it's very easy for us to get blinded blinded, especially by material things. We get caught up, we want to watch TV, we want to play video games, or we always get pulled in different directions. So especially in spiritual terms, we are quite blind, and we need to get to this point where we realize we need to seek out help, both from the scriptures and also from our gurus and from everyone, from the devotees as well, who can help us understand what our true purpose is in life and help us go back to Krishna. While Duryodhana, we see, is busy counting his army, he's very much blinded by his greed for the kingdom, his greed and envy to win, his desire to win over everyone. He gets really entangled in himself. He thinks, okay, so that army is there, but look at me. I am so strong. I'm so powerful. And he gets so blinded by this ego. He becomes completely oblivious to how other people are feeling. So let's take, for example, Grandfather Bhishma. Now we know he's there protecting Duryodhana's army, but really that was out of the vow. But he doesn't think about, wow, Bhishma told me so many times how anxious he was about this war, how much he knew it was wrong. He's not thinking about how was my actions affecting other people. He's just got caught up in this massive tangle of greed. That way, because he's so focused on himself, this frustration and disappointment is quite inevitable, because he doesn't see, he's not looking towards the future. He's not seeing past himself. And so that's going to have an impact strategically as well on his planning. And we see this, well, if you continue to read the Mahabharata, you might see it and understand where Duryodhana starts going wrong because he gets so entangled in himself. So what's the second lesson that we can take away from this? Well, from our birth, we're, especially I think over here in the West, but we just get very caught up in this individualism. So we think of ourselves as I, what is best for me, what is mine, what possession can I get next? It's a really, really big thing that we get taught when we're young. And because of this, we always have expectations from others as well. Oh, why isn't that person doing this thing that I know that I want? Why isn't, I don't know, my dad cooking my favorite meal tomorrow? We're always thinking about what's going to satisfy us. And so then again, when those expectations are not met because we don't understand that the world doesn't revolve around us, we also get disappointed. So sometimes things can be a lot better for us if we look past that. And it's not that we necessarily let ourselves get trampled over, but we understand that we have to compromise, that we have to be tolerant, and that there are so many different people who have different needs and different things, that we should match our expectations rather than thinking, oh, the whole world revolves around us. Mm. Okay, let's move on to the next section of this. And let me find someone to read.
Maybe actually Akasha's sister, Riha.
Yeah, okay.
16, so go for it. We know ageist here is just, sometimes it just requires, because some of the words are quite big, it just requires a little elder child to read. So please do bear with us. I know others are enthusiastic to read, and we will actually give the opportunity to do so. But maybe not today.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go for it.
Text 12. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. Text 13. After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. Text 14. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Text 15. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell, called Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the ferocious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrible conch shell called Pandriya. Text 16 to 18. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadev blew the Sugosa. And
Mani Pushpaka, that great archer, the king of Kasi, the great Pisces, Sikandi, Vistajumya, Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and others. O king, such is the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells.
So, oh, sorry, this is the very nice painting of Krishna blowing his conch shell, and then Arjuna also. One more verse.
Text 19. The blowing of all these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of
Great. Thank you so much for reading through that.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we have a really interesting description of the two sides blowing their conch shells, which I think maybe at the beginning you might think, okay, why do we need to just hear about these two conch shells being blown? But even this moment provides a really important time of insight for us. And why is that? Well, we can sort of compare the blowing of the different conch shells on each side. Because here, despite Duryodhana's boastful words, we get this result of the confrontation made clear from the onset. So right from the beginning, the conch shells reveal a little bit about where this war is going to go. You might have noticed with the descriptions of the conch shell, if you were paying close attention, the ones from Duryodhana's side, they made a tremendous sound. Yes, there was a very big sound there, but let's look at this verse up here, looking at the side of Krishna and Arjuna. It was so uproarious, it vibrated both in the sky and on the earth, so it's kind of on multiple platforms, and it shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. So already here we're getting a sense of imbalance, and that imbalance is why, well, if we think back to the past time, I think Nabi looked at it last week, who is on the side of Arjuna? We have Krishna. Now the other side might have Krishna's army, which stretches for miles and miles and miles. But already here we get a sense of the power of just having Krishna on your side, by your side, to give you that guidance. And this is something that Arjuna recognized straight away when he went to Krishna before the war. And Krishna said, do you want me or your army? And he understood immediately, again, that he needed that help, that spiritual guidance, and someone by his side. He wasn't revolved around himself. He wasn't revolved around ego and greed and getting the material army. He understood and looked beyond to the spiritual. So that's a really important lesson for us to remember. And another lesson on a more practical level is that we probably have all been guilty of being selfish. At one point, we all have got to a point where we think too much about ourselves and not enough about others. In fact, like we were saying, because we're all brought up in this culture of I, it probably is our instinctive way to go. But to be honest, being selfish only ends in misery, not only for everyone else, but for us as well. A good way to do this is to compare Duryodhana and Yudhishthir. From some of the pastimes that we might have looked at in the Mahabharata over the last 2 weeks, we see that Yudhishthir is always about giving to others. He always wants to give, he's very generous, he's very righteous. Whereas Duryodhana always wants to take. Now, whether that be the kingdoms or that be people constantly respecting him when it might not be due, he always wants things from people. And when he doesn't get those things, he gets very miserable. He always gets very wound up. He says, if you don't give this to me, then I'm going to go and do something silly, or I'm going to end my life, because he gets so miserable without these things. It can drive us almost mad. So the way that we can think about it is we should always be giving. We should always be in the giving mindset. And one way to do this, watch our minds. What are our minds thinking constantly? It's always, I want this, 8,000 thoughts always going through our minds. I want this, you see this, another commercial, I want that. And also we can be really negative. So we should try and maybe think more positively, think about how we can help others rather than, oh, I don't have this one thing, I don't have that one thing. The other mindset should be, I have this and how can I give this to other people? Other ways in which we can also shift our mindset is that we should watch how we use our words. And words will come after thoughts as well. From when you start making your thoughts positive, then your words become positive as well. But with your words, try and be grateful, always say thank you, appreciate what others are doing for you, and don't always use that I want framework, and you'll find your thoughts also shifting. Then thoughts and words, after that comes actions. We have to show and put into practice that we're going to help others with our, by our deeds. Of course, you shouldn't, don't think that you can go way beyond your means. Krishna appreciates, and we see this in another verse, whatever within your capacity that you can give, try and give. And again, with our possessions, according to our capacity, we can try and assist others, give what we have. Okay, let's move on to the next set of verses. And let's see, who would like to read this?
Manhar. What do you think? Manhar?
Yeah, we could do. I mean, we could do someone, and then afterwards we could try someone new as well.
Okay, no, let's try somebody new. Go on. Who are you thinking?
Sanjana, who's 14.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Where is she? Let me find her.
And there's Pranav, who is also 18.
Okay. If you can see her, please unmute her. I'm trying to.
Text 20. At that time, Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn in military array, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words. Text 21 to 22. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here, who desire to fight, and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Text 23. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Text 24. Sanjay said, O descendant of Bharata, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. Text 25. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, just behold Partha, and all the Kauravas assembled here.
This is the battle, and Krishna's taking the chariot in the middle. You haven't finished yet, by the way. And Krishna takes this chariot right in front of the greatest person that is on the battlefield, apart from Krishna himself, and that's Bhishma. So please carry on.
It's two more verses just at the top here.
Text 26. There Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his father-in-laws and well-wishers. Text 27. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus.
Okay, great. So we have a bit of a cliffhanger there. Let's see what Arjuna's going to say next. But before we do that, let's have a look at what kind of lesson we can learn from Krishna's actions here, taking Arjuna into the battlefield. So Arjuna here wants to take a final look at the armies. So he asks Krishna, who at this point is functioning as his transcendental charioteer, which, if it might come across as weird that Arjuna's literally ordering God, but in the kind of pastime that's going on here, this is Krishna's role. So he asks Krishna to drive him into the middle of the battlefield so he can assess the situation. What are the armies like? What sort of formation are they in, etc. So Krishna takes Arjuna in front of Bhishma. And like Nabi was saying, Bhishma is the biggest challenge, both on a kind of fighting sense. Bhishma is an excellent warrior. He's been trained very, very well. And Arjuna knows this is going to be one of the hardest fights he will have to do. But also in an emotional sense, because Arjuna and Bhishma were very close as family members. And so it is a real reminder to Arjuna about how, you know, hard this war is going to be. It's amongst family members, it's within the family, and it is something that will feel very difficult at times. So lesson 4 that we can take away is Arjuna's actions right before the battlefield. He's in probably the most intense situation right now, with the biggest war he'll ever have to fight in his life against other family members. There's a lot of pressure, but at this point, Arjuna still takes time to reflect. He knows that he needs to go and collect himself and assess the situation rationally. And this is also, again, representative of a situation we might find ourselves in. Now, many of us probably won't be in a war anytime soon, but life is always crammed with responsibilities and pressing issues. We always find ourselves, maybe we're getting caught up in an exam, or we're at school and there might be some friendship drama going on. It's all different things that we have to experience in our lives. And when we're experiencing these things, we might think, oh, there's no time to think, there's no time to do anything. I just have to do this and this and this and answer straight away. But here, Arjuna is showing us this is not the case. Whatever situation we're in, we shouldn't allow this no time attitude to come into our mind. We should, first of all, take a step back. In our material situations, taking a step back might even find that we find a better way to deal with them, a more rational way to deal with them. But even then, when we're in these situations, we should also understand that we should take time for our spiritual activities. And again, the two will work hand in hand, because when we turn to Krishna, Krishna is always there to give us guidance, and the time will be made. If you make time for Krishna, Krishna will open up the time for you. At the end of the day, he's the one in charge of all the time anyway. So he will help you. If we go to the next few verses.
And who was the 18-year-old?
I think it was Pranav. Let me double check. Yeah.
So
I guess a brother of Sanjana.
Okay.
Are you willing to read?
Maybe not. Let's pick somebody else.
Okay, let's see. We can go to Manhar next.
Manhar?
Yeah.
Now it's Nimai, isn't it? Nimai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Good.
Okay. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." Text 29. "My whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on the end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning." Text 30. "I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Kasi demon."
Great, brilliantly read, Manhar. So we've got here, Arjuna is now really, in his analysis, it's really sort of hitting him, the reality of the situation. He's seen all of his kin, his family, his friends, and he's foreseeing now that there's going to be a lot of suffering and death. And not only is there going to be a lot of suffering and death, but a lot of suffering and death from people he's grown up with and people who he knows very well. Because this is going to be inevitable. In any war, of course, there are going to be casualties. And Arjuna now begins to think, oh my God, why are we doing this? Is it going to be worth it to lose all of these people, these relatives that I've known for such a long time? And he becomes very, very bewildered and feels very, very scared. We can see like the physical reaction here. My bow is slipping from my hand. My skin is burning. I'm trembling. I'm feeling my mouth dry up. So it's becoming very physical. Almost the body is taking over and the spiritual vision is going away. So this shows us, if we remember from a few of the previous verses, that in life, we're going to have to face our biggest challenges at many points. At this point, it was Bhishma for Arjuna. Bhishma was going to remind Arjuna very clearly about the challenge of this war, both emotionally and physically. And Krishna here in this verses of the Bhagavad Gita, he does it literally. He is the charioteer and he takes Arjuna right in front of his unwanted challenge. But in a similar way, this will happen to us where Krishna will take us to face our challenges because it will help us develop as well if we face them in the right way. But we should also know that we should not be shaken by these challenges. At the end of the day, while Krishna has taken Arjuna to face Bhishma, he's also committed to Arjuna, I'm going to be by your side when you have to do this. You just have to have faith in me that this is the right thing to do. And we should also understand that when we face this challenge, yes, it's a challenge we're going to have to overcome and we're going to have to do something to deal with it. But as long as we keep our faith in Krishna, he will also provide us the strength to overcome that challenge. And this provides us with another very useful lesson, which will sum up in this little sort of saying, the more we sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. So what does that mean? Well, that means, let's say now, I'm currently in like a good stage. I don't think I'm facing too many challenges at the moment, but I know in the future at some point I will. So what will I do now? Well, I'm going to keep up being, my spiritual lifestyle, keep up working towards my spirituality, keeping Krishna in mind, and also preparing myself, what might the challenge be? So then when I get there, my faith is going to be so strong, so firm, that yes, of course, I will see the challenge. I will be scared. It's natural, I'm human. But because I did that work in peace, did more of that bhakti, I then don't waver as much when I'm in that war with whatever challenge is coming in the future. So we shouldn't just think of bhakti and religion as something to practice when we're in a dire situation, when we're desperate, when we want something, when we want to get out of a difficult situation. We should understand that we should do it even when things are calm and good, not only because that's the easier way to kind of strengthen our spirituality and eventually get to the spiritual world, but also because when we do get to that time when we're facing challenging situations, we're better prepared for them. Okay, let's move on to the next.
Just wanted to add something there.
Yeah.
Very well explained, Sanjana. This is actually an Indian army saying, the more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. Even when we're studying, and I'm sure many children already have this experience, you have a project to do, you've got 4 weeks, you've got plenty of time, and you let it go until the last day, the last night, you go all night, oh my God, I got one night, and you're really sweating, right? Because you got to finish the project. So this applies to bhakti, but it also applies, in our student life, your student life. Whilst you've got 4 weeks to study, don't let it go. Study every day. Get a little bit done every day. The project in 4 weeks. Okay, 4 weeks is a long time. But you know what? I'm going to start now. I'm going to get it done. Because you get it done now, you just have to suffer a little less later on when you have to compile it and then hand it in. So it's just a very practical thing, a very practical lesson.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sanjay. But you did explain it well in terms of bhakti. I like that very much.
No,
I learned something there.
Sorry, sis, been there, done that, and I say I can very much relate. She's 16, so I think it must be GCSE time. But I remember it took me a few sets of exams to realize that I needed to. Yeah, the more we sweat in peace, the more we do in peace, less you're doing when you're right at that crunch time. Very true. Everyone has shared those experiences. So for you youngsters, take note of us who are older and learn from our mistakes.
Very good. I was thinking the last one Shruti could read. She hasn't read, and there's quite a few verses. She always reads very nicely as well. So Shruti, would you like to read?
Sure, Prabhuji. I just wanted to say the last saying that Sanjana Mataji said, it reminded me of the song Bhaja Govindam. There's Adi Shankaracharya, I think. He was saying that there was this man he was in his 90s, he was trying to read new Bhagavad Gita, other sort of scriptures. He's saying, why are you wasting your time reading now? You should have learned this in your younger ages. So now you should be able to be performing them. So that just reminded me.
Very good. Very good point, Shruti. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, text 31. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, father-in-law, grandsons, brother-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Text 36. Sin will overcome us if we slay with such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our own friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? Should I read this or?
You can, but I'd like to, I think the last, let me just see how many more verses there will be after. Yes, if you read this page, and then the last page, Riyansh can read because he's been putting his hand up all the way through.
Sure, Prabhuji. Text 37 to 38. O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the woman of the family, become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vishnu, comes unwanted progeny. Text 41. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life for both the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performance for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. For text 42, by the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Excellent reading. Okay, Riyansh, you can finish off these few verses.
Yes, Prabhuji. Text 43. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire of enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief.
Excellent. Well done. Well done. And whoever is the artist here, please desist from showing your skills. Please to remove those if you can. Okay, Sanjana.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for reading that through, Riyansh and Shruti. And well done, everyone. We've officially read through the whole of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So let's just look at the final explanation of these final verses here in the chapter 1. So here Arjuna has 4 reasons that he decides to retreat from fighting at this point. He says, number 1, out of his compassion. So he says it would be cruel and heartless for him to, end the lives of so many soldiers who are so young. Many of them very, very young and don't need to die at this point unless there's going to be a war. Number 2, enjoyment and who would enjoy the fruits of the war. So he says, well, even if we did win this unrivaled kingdom, what would be the point? Since we would not have that much company. Like we said, he's fighting a lot of family members. So many people from the kingdom, the previous kingdom, are not going to be there to enjoy and see the stability of the kingdom anyway. Number 3, the sense of sin. So Arjuna says, well, surely we'll just get lots of bad karma if we're going to engage in such brutal violence, if we're going to kill so much of the family, which will then lead to other people, vulnerable people, not being protected. What will be the outcome of that? Our generations are going to be affected by this for years, which links nicely into number 4, this complete destruction of family, because it would destroy so much of the family unit, which would cause a lot of chaos for future generations, especially because there's just going to be less people to uphold the family values. So then Arjuna, very much overwhelmed by his grief, resolves not to fight. Although at this point, and we'll learn a little bit more in chapter 2 as to why this is so important, because at the moment it might be a bit confusing. Why does Arjuna have to fight? We'll learn a little bit more in chapter 2 when Krishna starts speaking about how it is his duty and why we shouldn't come up with too many excuses not to do our duty. So lesson 6 is, at this point, in this age, our duty is to do our bhakti and to go back to Krishna, to live in Krishna consciousness, to eventually go back to Krishna. But it's very, very easy for us to come up with different reasons why not to do it. For all of us, for example, we're quite young and we might think, hang on, we're very, very young. Let me enjoy my life. Youth is for enjoying. When I'm older, I'll do all this stuff. Number 2, it's very similar. Let me just enjoy my senses. Why shouldn't I enjoy? I'm being provided all this enjoyment by Maya. Why shouldn't I have it? I want it, so why shouldn't I have it? Number 3 is we don't want to stop maybe our older practices, whether that be worshipping the demigods, which we'll learn a little bit more about as we go throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So don't worry too much at the moment if you don't understand that one yet. Or we have certain other habits that we just don't want to give up. And similar, number 4, we might say, this is not my family tradition. So I understand this, I connect with it, but how can I change? So there are also, and finally, which I think is the big one, is no time. We do say, oh, I have to do work, I have to study, I have to go and meet my friends, but I have no time to do this. I think that's a really, really big one. And all generations, I think, are guilty of it, saying that they have no time. So we should be very, very careful and try and kind of keep our eye on the target in the same way that Arjuna only saw the eye of the bird, which is going back to Krishna.
Nice.
So I think now we're doing the Q&A.
Just wanted to say that this chapter has 6 lessons. There's no other chapter in the Gita has so many lessons. So this is the first chapter. Some people think that first chapter is not so important because Krishna doesn't say anything. But actually the first chapter is the most important. There's 6 fundamental lessons. I am going to share the presentation on the group. So don't worry if you haven't written down the lessons. You will have all the lessons in front of you. And what I was thinking was we will actually need to, so that we get this Bhagavad Gita in our lives practically, is to revise these lessons again and again, maybe with your parents or something like that. But I just wanted to do a very quick overview, if you don't mind, of the chapter, Sanjana. We have a certain picture of success, right? We usually base it on our school results or on the friends that we keep, on others' opinion of us. You know, if the teacher says, "Shabash, well done," you know, we become happy, and we shape our lives in these predetermined, pursuances. So, you know, we have these successes in mind, and we're always trying to reach out those successes. But at some point, we will begin to doubt whether that perfect life is achievable, that will actually make us happy. And sometimes we will question these material. I remember when I was 13 years old, I started questioning, you know, this world and the temporary nature of it. And I was thinking, no, there's much more than this world. It can't finish with this body. And it led me to ask many, many questions about what is going on in life. And I read many, many different scriptures from different religions. Anyway, so we may well question this materialism, and we should question this materialism, because that's not enough. It's not enough to keep us happy, because the soul will never be happy with something that's temporary, material. But could there be something deeper in life, to purpose of life? Well, yes, there is. This is the doubt which Arjuna expresses at the outset of his sacred. He's saying to Krishna, I can't be happy here. This is not for me. And if you notice, Krishna was silent. He didn't say anything to Arjuna. Arjuna wasn't looking for answers from Krishna at this stage. So that's why Krishna was silent. Arjuna knew the problem, and he thought he knew the answer as well. Give up everything. And that's why Krishna didn't say anything. So we also should not have that mood that we know the problem and we know the answer. Krishna, you are our order carrier. I tell you what we want to make us happy, and you give it to me, please, Krishna. That's not what Krishna is there for. Krishna is there to be loved, to be understood, to understand who we are and who he is in our relationship with him. So let's hear Krishna. Arjuna was speaking, but he didn't want to hear Krishna. So let's not get into that trap of not hearing Krishna. So now we can go on to questions and answers. We got a few minutes, after which we will do the quiz. Always looking forward to the quiz. Now, questions-wise, you can put them on the chat and we'll reply, or you can put up your electronic hand if you got any questions. And let me just check. Okay, Arjun.
So, why do people mainly focus on Krishna and Radha, even though Krishna basically married Rukmini?
Interesting. Yes, good question. Excellent question. It's not that's not specific to the Bhagavad Gita, nor the chapter that we've spoken about today, but I will very quickly address that. Srimati Radharani is the internal energy of the Lord. She's known as Hladini Shakti. So this is a little bit technical. She's the first expansion in many ways of Krishna. She's not different from Krishna either at the same time. Very difficult person to understand. Krishna is tough, but Radha is even harder to understand. From Radha, actually, from Krishna, we know from Krishna expands Vishnu, all the different incarnations come. This is according to the scriptures. But from Radha comes all the gopis, all the queens. So from her, they all expand. So she is a source of Rukmini. Even though Krishna, when he came in this world 5,000 years ago, he married Rukmini, for sure, his first wife. But the relationship between Radha and Krishna is completely unique, completely beyond our understanding. It's beyond the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita, I have to say. But hold that thought. I've answered it partially and briefly because it's not really a subject matter which we want to go into in this particular lesson. It is an important subject, and I've done maybe about 10 or 15 seminars on that very subject. So it's a very interesting subject. So thank you for your question, but take it from me that Radharani and Krishna, they are the original personalities of Godhead from whom everything and everybody comes. Is that okay, young man? Thank you. Pari? We can't hear you, Pari.
Sorry. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much to Sanjana Mataji and you for the beautiful explanations for the first chapter.
She's glorious.
Yes, indeed. My question was that because Arjuna, he's like the only one speaking throughout the first chapter, right? it's I don't understand. I mean, I do understand the reason for his compassion, but the thing is, I feel like in a way he shouldn't have been so compassionate, because in the past, I mean, his wife was so like, she was humiliated. I think the reason for his compassion was a bit like, even though they did so wrong, even with Bhishma, I don't understand, because with Pitama Bhishma, I think even in the youth game, he could have been there to stop it. But even then, Arjuna is showing everyone so much compassion, which I understand he has a lot of love for everyone, but I think it's his duty to be carrying out this war, and that's just like, that's what I think. I was told before that every devotee of Krishna has a lot of compassion, but in this case, I feel like Arjuna, he was a bit too compassionate. He was a bit too nice.
Misplaced compassion. Yeah.
Yes.
In many ways, I mean, Sanjana, you can answer, but Krishna also put him in this condition so that he would become somewhat disillusioned, so that he would speak the Bhagavad Gita. So that is another point, that Arjuna actually is a pure devotee of the Lord. And you're right, devotees have compassion, but devotees are also compassionate beyond the body. They know that if we don't punish this person, then that person will suffer the karma, not just in this life, but in the next. But if we punish that person, that's finished, that karma is finished. So, but Arjun's dilemma was actually perpetuated by Sri Krishna himself, so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. He was put under Yogamaya, so that he forgot his duty and he surrendered onto Krishna. That's one of the reasons why he spoke the Gita and that was for us, of course, at the end of the day.
I see.
Sanjana, anything you would like to add?
No, I mean, that was very similar to what I was going to say.
Okay. Sorry.
No, we'll see other situations as well, actually, where you might think, oh, wouldn't Arjuna know that given his position? But it's for our sakes, because we all end up in these situations. And also wanted to commend Pari, because I feel like she's way ahead of the game, because she basically said, we'll see this in chapter 2, but Krishna does essentially, he doesn't hold back, and he just goes, Arjuna, what are you saying? This is all the stuff that they've done to you. Go and fight, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji, and thank you, Prabhuji. Just another thing I wanted to add was that like you said, Krishna's devotees have a lot of compassion, and with me in this case, because I feel like if I was in Kurukshetra, I wouldn't have felt so compassionate in that sense. So does that mean that I'm not pure enough to be Krishna's devotee?
No chance. You are Krishna's devotee, guaranteed, and you're going to be a preacher. And your role model is sitting in front of you. That is Sanjana.
Thank you.
You're guaranteed. You're a devotee. It's guaranteed. Don't have any doubts on that at all.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Very good. Thank you so much. Akasha or Rhea?
Hare Krishna. I just want to ask, if we were talking about the trap, if we get into the trap, but we don't know how to get out, we know that we're in the trap, what should we do?
Very good question, Akarsha. And like we'll see throughout the Bhagavad Gita and through our studies, whenever you're in a situation and you know you're in a bad situation, you're trapped, you must turn to Krishna. And you know what? You might not even immediately get out of that trap. I mean, look at us in the material world. It takes a lot of work to get out and to the spiritual world. So we should also have that understanding. It's not you surrender to Krishna and immediately, boom, clap, everything sorted. You have to strengthen your faith a lot. But at least then, once you've surrendered and you know that you have Krishna with you, that situation becomes a lot easier and you find yourself falling into the material trap much less. Because you're kind of consolidated that faith. Nabi Prabhu, did you have anything?
Oh, very good answer. And I would say on a little bit on top of that, you know, we should expect calamities in this world, material world. What Bhagavad Gita does, it strengthens, as Sanjana said, our faith. We are able to handle the difficulties. We shouldn't be thinking there should be no difficulty. Krishna, take away all my difficulties. No. Krishna gives us the equipment by which to be able to handle the difficulties. Difficulties will be there. This is the material world. We can't expect everything to be hunky-dory. But very nice question, Akasha. Very intelligent girl. Ishwari or Kishori?
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
How did Sanjaya get the boon to see what was happening on the Battle of Kurukshetra?
I can't quite remember this one.
Okay, it's his guru was Ved Vyas. And Ved Vyas gave him this benediction because he wanted Dhritarashtra to understand what was going to happen in Kurukshetra. So he very kindly gave this blessing to Sanjaya that you from Hastinapur will be able to see every aspect of the Mahabharata. That was that's how he became qualified. And he was a great disciple of Ved Vyas, very faithful, very humble, very intelligent actually. So good question. But Prathamesh?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have a doubt that when Arjuna and Krishna were towards Bhishma, so then Duryodhana didn't tell anything to Bhishma, that means because he was towards them and they were opposite sides in the war. So Duryodhana didn't tell anything to Bhishma.
Oh, okay. Sanjana?
What was the question?
Question was that why did Duryodhana not get any good advice? Is that the question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Short answer is I think Duryodhana got quite a lot of good advice, which he just chose to ignore. In fact, he had all the people on his side telling him this is not the right thing to do, even his guru. But the problem is, like we said, I think in one of the lessons in the chapter 1, is that Duryodhana was a bit too caught up in the I know what's right, I know what I want, I know what I need to do, that he didn't listen to any of the advice around him. Now, Pitama Bhishma was bound by this vow. Now, whether or not he should have been, he should have followed through with that is another whole debate to be had. But he did say that I don't want to have to follow through with this. I don't think we should be going ahead with this. And you should understand the power of Krishna, because Bhishma did understand, I think, a lot about the power of Krishna, and he tried to convey that to Duryodhana, but Duryodhana was very caught up in himself. He couldn't listen to any advice at that time.
Very good point. Actually, you're right. Everybody except one person gave him good advice. Everybody. Even Kern gave him good advice. One person, main person, was his uncle, Shakuni. And his brothers, of course. His brothers will never say anything against him. But his uncle, Shakuni Mama, was one of the main reasons why Duryodhana never listened. So he had complete faith in Shakuni. He had no faith in his father, mother, Krishna, Bhishma, Dronacharya, who all gave him good advice.
Yeah. And I think it's because also Shakuni basically told him exactly what he wanted to hear, which was, you deserve this kingdom, you should go and pursue it. And I think another lesson we should take away from that is, people like our teachers, our parents, our spiritual guiders, they sometimes have to be cruel to be kind, in terms of they're not always going to tell us what we want to hear. And we have to be in the position to understand this is good advice. Now, is it what I wanted to hear? No. Maybe I might, even as a human, be a little bit hurt by it. Yes. But can I accept that these people are well placed to advise me? Also, yes, that will help us in our daily lives. So say maybe sometime your teacher might tell you something like you need to do a little bit more work over the holidays. You might think, I don't want to do that. But they're telling you for the right reason.
Very, very good point, Sanjana. I like that. Ria, I think we're only going to have time for 1 or 2 questions. But before we go to Ria, I was thinking, Pari, maybe you can just put the Kahoot link on the chat. and then maybe we can set up, and we can still take questions while everybody's linking into Kahoot, so that we can just do the quiz as soon as everybody's on. We can still do the questions and a Q&A while you're putting on the, while everybody's getting into Kahoot. And I hope that's possible. Okay, Ria.
What's going to happen after 20 weeks?
Let's see if we survive the 20 weeks first, shall we? But I have some big plans. If you guys are up for it, I got some really big plans. So I'm just developing those plans. But this is such a vibrant group of young adults. I'm really happy. So I've got some plans, but I won't reveal them right now. But there's some really interesting things we can do. Manhar.
Prabhuji?
Yes.
Mine is just like short, so if it's just something I want to share, but if someone else has like a question.
Okay, yeah, let's get questions first. Good boy. Thank you so much, Manhar. Ishwari?
It's Ishori.
Ishori. Beautiful name, by the way.
Thank you. What was the vow Bhishma Pita made?
Okay. Do you remember, Sanjana?
It was that he was going to defend, well, he said he was always going to defend Hastinapur, which meant that he would always have to be on the kind of defending army of his Hastinapur. So because Duryodhan was king, was in line at that time, the defending army of Hastinapur would have been Duryodhan's army, because technically the Pandavas were the sort of challengers at that time.
Yes, and the second thing was that he said he would never marry, because although he had said to the father that your daughter's children will be the future rulers, he was not convinced. He said, well, what if you have children? They might fight my daughter's children. So he said, I will not marry in that case. That was a big vow, a huge vow for a Kshatriya, for a warrior. Is that okay?
Thank you, Prabhu.
And sorry, does everybody have the Kahoot password? The quiz login?
I don't know if the link is in the.
Oh,
yeah.
Ari, shall we put the login in?
Prabhuji. Okay, so this is a really bad mistake from my side. I thought I was only supposed to give in the questions, and then it would be made.
Somebody was going to do the. No, don't worry. You can. Oh, how are we going to do this? Okay. No, yeah, we wanted you to put it on Kahoot as well.
Prabhuji, does she only have the questions?
Yes. So can you maybe get the questions, send them to Shruti? What do you think, Shruti? Will you have time to do it though? We only got a minute or two.
Maybe she can send each question on the chat, and then everyone can change their chat setting to only write the message to the host or someone, and then they could send in their answers.
Yeah, but remember we have this 1, 2, 3. It's going to be hard to then without a lot of work.
Oh yes.
Okay, I think let's do it next week. Let's do the quiz for the history and chapter 1 next week. No problem. So let's take a few more questions.
Okay, sorry, Prabhuji.
No, it's okay. And if you don't have access to Kahoot, you can send your questions to Shruti. Yeah.
Okay.
But don't worry too much at all. Huh? This is good because this is how we learn. So that's absolutely fine. Don't worry at all. Shinitya?
My question is,
Why was the Dhritarashtra blind?
Oh, wow. Very good. How old are you, Srinitya?
I'm 7 years old.
Wow. Thank you so much. He was blind because his mother, how do we put this? Maybe your mother and father can explain it to you.
I'm sitting right next to her. This is her father.
Were you in the session last week?
I was, yes. This is Nakul, Srinitya's father. I was, yes.
Yeah, we explained it last week, how where the Vyas was asked to give children to the two queens, but because he looked so bad, you know, he's a sage. The sages sometimes don't bathe; they have long hair, so he smelled bad. He looked bad, and the queen who was to bear the child, she closed her eyes, and because she closed her eyes, the son, the boy, was born blind. So just a little bit of advice to the parents. It's such a nice question, and I like the inquisitiveness of the children. If I could request the parents, spend a little time on the Mahabharata. We did it last week. You got the notes, and go through it with your children. It's very, very important. It's good for you, and it's good for the children as well. If you have time, this is really important, so that they have this background knowledge, which will assist them in the future as well. We're giving you everything in terms of the knowledge and the notes, the lectures, and you're welcome to use them. Use them for your benefit, for the benefit of your children.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Hema.
Guruji, you know that if Krishna wanted, he can like change anything. Why didn't he change Duryodhana's like behavior from like negative to positive?
Sanjana, would you like to answer?
Duryodhana's behavior from negative to positive?
Yeah.
Which
Why did Krishna change it? He doesn't change it. He will never change our attitude, right? That's for us to change. He will advise, but he will never force us. He won't force us to love him. This is the point. He will never force us to love him. But he wants us to love him because we love him. He loves us so much. And that's why he's always crying. He loves us, but we've forgotten him. We don't care for him. He advises us through many different ways, through the scriptures, through the devotees, through the mother and father, like that, in many, many ways. So he won't change somebody's attitude. Duryodhana's attitude, he will not change it. He will advise. Duryodhana, become a good boy. But he won't change. He won't force anybody on himself on anybody. Oh, we have to make some announcement, actually, a very nice announcement. Let's take two more questions and then we make the announcement. So Nimitta, you're still there, right? So,
yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, good. So two more questions. Any more questions? Oh, Manhar, yes, go ahead. What were you going to say, Manhar?
So this was like when Shruti, I think it is Shruti, she said something about Bhaja Gauranga. She said that prediction, and then my dad told me once that there's this guy who came to Srila Prabhupada. He said he read the Bhagavad Gita, and then Prabhupada said, do you act the Bhagavad Gita? So that I think was very interesting, because some people just read it and then they just read it as a book but don't act it.
You're a very intelligent boy, Manhar. Thank you for sharing that. Very, very good boy. It's very important. Your point is fundamental. We're not just here to study the Bhagavad Gita. but to understand it and put it into our lives, into practice. That's why we got these lessons, so that we can learn how to put the teachings of this invaluable scripture into our life. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic questions, fantastic contributions. I'm really pleased with everybody, and especially with the questions like Pari's, Manhar's point, Shruti's point. Really very, very good. Very, very impressed. What I was going to announce, Sri Krishna Janmashtami is coming shortly. It's on Bank Holiday Monday, the 30th of August. And we are doing a celebration in Coulsdon, Croydon. Thank you. And this is the poster. And I wanted Nimit to just offer this fantastic opportunity. Go for it.
Thank you, Prabhuji, and thank you, everyone. So, as Prabhuji said, on 30th of August, which is the bank holiday Monday, so everyone will be off. Schools are off anyway. So it gives us a fantastic opportunity to sort of, after the lockdown, we call it Freedom Party with Krishna. So again, we are not sure what's going to happen that time, but we have certainly committed this date, and we are doing the preparations for it. So as Prabhuji said, it's Coulsdon Community Center. The address is there. We'll send out this flyer anyway soon in the group, so you have it. There is a QR code there. We also raising some funds to do the donation for the renovation for the temple. So it's basically for your parents. I'm not sure if you guys will understand this, but yeah, if contribution will be more than appreciated. Now, one of the things which we would like to request from everyone, that there are series of programs going to happen like Kirtan, Abhishek, Aarti, and a very important one, the Krishna Leela we're planning, apart from full day of prasadam and discourses from Prabhuji and others. So we're planning to do a Krishna Leela choreography, which is actually choreographed by a very talented young lady. She's a professional dancer. She trains, and she's going to train online through Zoom. So she's choreographing a Krishna Leela where we need maybe one or two adults as playing as Yashoda and all, and then we need a few kids as gopis, Krishnas. So, and we're planning to do a few things together. So we will invite you all to join into the choreography. So as said, this will be done, the practice will be done through online, through using Zoom. And maybe once in a while, we might ask people to come down in somewhere, which we'll arrange down the road. So that would sort of keep the momentum, and Krishna Leela is the key for Janmashtami. So feel free, and this poster will be with you. And then if you're interested, please reach out to Prabhuji, give your name, consent as well that you want to participate. And the training is, of course, free. Of course, we'll be arranging this online sessions very soon once we have enough number of participants to go for it. And we look forward to have a fantastic day on 30th of August. That's it from my side, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So the idea is the practices will be more or less online on Zoom, but on the actual day of 30th of August, Bank Holiday Monday, we will meet at the Coulsdon Community Center in Croydon and celebrate together Sri Krishna Janmashtami, and you can become part of that Krishna Leela. So there's many parts that are available. And if anybody would like to join and you live near the area, or you can come to Coulsdon or for that day, then please join us. Please take part in this Leela. It's going to be a 10-15 minute of wonderful dance and music, choreographed, and you'll be trained. It'll be a unique opportunity. So this is really amazing. So, okay, thank you so much, everybody. I don't think there's anything else. Next week, we will try to do the second chapter. It's a long chapter. So we might even have to do it over 2 weeks, but I'm hoping we will get it done in 1 week. If we do it over 2 weeks, then our sessions will go into 21 weeks, etc. So let's hope we can get it done in one session. But it's a very, very important chapter, extremely important chapter. Okay, thank you so much, Sanjana. Wonderful presentations, and everybody for your questions and participation was really, really good. I hope you enjoyed the session and look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Oh, who's going to do the quiz next week? I was going to ask, maybe Rianch can do it for chapter 1. Rianch, are you there still? Yes, he's there. So Rianch, you can do chapter 1. He's only 8, by the way, but he's such an intelligent boy. I've not met somebody that young, so clued up on the scriptures. He knows 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita by heart, many other verses in the Bhagavad Gita, as well as other scriptures. So you can do chapter 1, Rianch, okay? If hopefully your exams are finished by then. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Let me just unmute everybody. Yeah, you can unmute yourselves.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Bye.
Bye.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Devar. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you, Sanjana.
I'm going to go now.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Was that okay, Sanjana, in terms of...
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. The way we're doing it. Any issues, just give me a shout. Huh?
Sure.
Oh
Yeah.
God, it's your ended.
Hare Krishna.
When the lights go well.
Prabhuji, can I do for the second chapter?
Is next week too difficult?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, no problem. I'll ask somebody else. I'll ask somebody else.
Oh, my lungs.
Oops.